Just a warning, I'm going to be doing this review just a tad bit differently than I normally would. Mostly due to the age of the game and the fact that I'm going to be talking about 3 different versions of it, and a whole nother game that preluded it. Yeah. So, buckle in, boys and girls, let's go! So, Mario in my gaming life is a pretty big deal. My earliest memories in life is playing Mario Bros. 3 on my NES and imitating Mario during, regular play. When I'm not holding a controller, of course. Still, the original holds a special place in my heart. The nostalgic NES sprites before learning how to do better details on 8-bit. Still, I'm totally spoiled by modern graphics now. Does the NES Classic, the most popular and most influential platformer of all time, still hold up today? That's a good question. I suppose I'm here to answer that question, but keep in mind, this is only my opinion. See, I like to point out what points the game does right, score based on how likely you are to like the game, out of 10, blah blah blah. It sounds official, I'm still human though. Regardless, I'll try and be as unbiased as I can while fighting a bunch of endangered turtles and walking chestnuts. Join me as we take on Bowser and review Super Mario Brothers. So first things first, let's dive right into the history of Super Mario Brothers. So, you ever play Mario Brothers? No, not that one, this one. Mario Brothers is an arcade game that ported to, well, everything. This game is where Mario and Luigi really got their starts and, killing turtles. Yeah, that's taken from this game too. It takes place in the sewers of New York as the bros fight off turtles that somehow aren't Koopas, crabs that aren't stuck in hair, and other crawlers. There isn't much of a story and more to, points than actual plot. The game doesn't really end, but it does grow in difficulty the further you move on. This mentality follows into Super Mario Bros. Yeah, there is super in there. I guess the bros traveled so far down the sewers that they ended up in this classic NES game. Still, the concept of further difficulty with progression is imperative to the newer type of game with actual story and ending. It wasn't about score, although the scoreboard is still stuck on the screen. No, this was about beating the game itself rather than other players. Actually, speaking of other players, locally of course, there is a multiplayer function. You can compete with your friends and race to the finish type of thing. Yeah, Luigi is of course back, but you take turns rather than playing, them at the same time. I guess they added a lot of development into this game. Makes sense for a game planned out all on paper like a D&D map. Shout out to my D&D friends, by the way. But seriously, there isn't much in the history of Mario Brothers that isn't well known by now. So let's get in to the super of the Mario Brothers. By the way, just to let you guys know, I'll be focusing heavily on the All-Stars port. Yeah, so just add like a whole bunch more color into that. There we go, thank you, perfect. Great. Let's go! So of course, naturally, since this is an older game, there isn't that much in the way of writing. Back in the day, we had instruction booklets giving us quick and often poorly translated stories. This one isn't poorly translated, however, it just isn't good, at least not anymore. Bowser invades the Mushroom Kingdom, turning people into blocks, and kidnaps the one person able to stop his curse, Princess Peach. So as a random guy from out of nowhere, this jumping Italian plumber by the name of Mario decides that he can defeat basically Bowser's entire army and maybe with some help with his brother, save the princess. So basically every brick you break is murder, and Bowser has enough magic to curse everyone but 7 toads and a princess. Does the princess undo the curse? Who knows? Honestly, older games like this often don't have great writing, but since this seems to be, contradictory to the rest of Mario's continuity, I'm not giving it any points here. It isn't terrible and makes, a sense of urgency to Super Mario Brothers, but honestly it adds little to the gameplay itself anyway, so I'm not giving it a break. The charm of the game, though, is rather amazing. The graphics are nostalgic, and levels do what they can with very early NES graphics, making levels at least look fairly different. The enemies are identifiable from each other, and the sprite quality is pretty decent. Also, may I add, the music is often catchy and is now basically iconic to Mario himself. Bowser is also a fearsome villain, and the flagpole as a goal, as well as firework Easter eggs, is a nice little touch of fan service as well. What this game lacks in writing, it makes up for in charm and character, making the experience fairly memorable. However, I probably shouldn't give the writing too much flack, since later Mario games don't necessarily do a whole lot with the writing either. No, unfortunately, you're playing a platformer game, and Mario established early on that platformers are all about the gameplay. Yes. How does this game control? For an early NES title? Perfectly fine. You basically have 2 buttons and a D-pad to work with. The D-pad points you left or right, and you have 1 button to jump. You can often jump on most enemies to take them out, but these plants coming out of pipes, and oftentimes these Hammer Brothers, are impossible to kill like this. If you jump wrong or get sideswiped by an enemy, you take damage. Mario is pretty fragile outside of Smash Brothers, so oftentimes you take damage from pretty much anything like fire, turtles, or these walking nuts. You will die. However, if you eat a mushroom, you get bigger and can tank an extra hit. Bigger means bulkier, but you take a hit and you're back to small. Also, you can break Toads and blocks if you need to when you're bigger. There you go. If you hit a box with a power-up while you're already big, instead of a mushroom, you also gain the Fire Flower, which gives you an extra attack. You know that button not used for jumping? You can pretty much use it for shooting fire. Once you have a Fire Flower, that is. Having a Fire Flower power-up, and you shoot fireballs. You know, Mario's signature move. This can kill things that are hard or impossible to jump on. The only thing it won't kill are these missiles called bullet bills and these things called buzzy beetles. Regardless, it's a powerful move to have in this game. That same button, when held down in any form, also allows you to run. This happens regardless of whether you have a power-up or not. Running is a good thing as you can build up momentum and jump higher and further. This is very important to a platformer. You basically have to pay attention to how fast you're moving to accurately jump on platforms. It isn't too complicated, as Mario's weight in the game feels pretty natural to his movements. Overall, besides a few points that you feel like you should be on top of a foe and you're just not, you hit it to the side and die instead, you should have no issues with the gameplay this time around. Now, the obstacles that you're playing with may or may not be a different story. The level designs are a basic mix of platforming challenges testing how well you can land on moving or stationary platforms. Yeah, they have enemies on them, but they are more like moving obstacles than anything. See, you have a few enemies. Goombas are literally cannon fodder. You can just they run off platforms, you can jump on them pretty easily, you can accidentally land on one and kills it. The only reason that you might actually get hit by a Goomba is if you run into the first one that you see for no particular reason, or when you're jumping towards it and for some reason there's this weird diagonal hit box that sometimes just messes with you. Strength in numbers is their motto, and you will absolutely prove them wrong. There is no strength in numbers. Koopas don't die when stepped on, but become kickable projectiles when you do step on them. See, they don't die, but they hide in their shell, and you can basically kick them. You can use them as weapons, but they will bounce back on you too, so beware. Green ones walk off cliffs, but red ones won't. These plants, also known as piranha plants, somehow got into Smash Brothers. Sorry. They jump out of pipes and can only be killed by fire. However, they are easily avoided as getting close to a pipe will also scare them away as long as they aren't already attacking. Bullet bills glide through the air and objects, but they are easily jumped on. They can't be killed by fire, however, not that I'm aware of anyway. Neither can these buzzy beetles, but they act just like Koopas when jumped on, so should be okay. Lakitus are high in the air and drop down spinies. These spinies can't be jumped on, and unlike plants, can be moved around, but fire will do them in. I'm sorry. This script is a bit rough around the edges. Let me clarify this. These can't be jumped on. They will hurt you because they have spikes on their backs. Mario apparently doesn't have really good boots. But they move around unlike piranha plants. Also like piranha plants, fire will kill them. Sorry, just had to come back in and clarify that because the script was, again, kind of a little rough on that part. Proofreading didn't catch it, so... Back to the video. Hammer Brothers are like mini boss fights, often encountered in pairs, hence the bros in their name. They are difficult to kill by jumping on due to their hammers. If you have a fire flower, you can toast them, and hitting a block underneath them will also kill them. They also jump, but thankfully they don't travel very far. On the 2 water levels, you will run into having fish, aka cheep, which can only be killed by fire, but often just swim straight. Yeah, killed by fire underwater. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, I know. These levels also have bloopers. Bloopers are squid-like creatures that can swim very erratically in any direction through any obstacle. These things can be, again, killed by fire, but they're harder to hit and difficult to dodge. But they still follow you around, and their movements can be manipulated, thankfully. Last but not least, Bowser. Technically, most of these are actually copies of Bowser using some type of magic costume. Bowser mostly jumps and shoots fire, and like all other enemies, is often more of an obstacle. The final challenge of each world, if you will. You dodge him and grab the axe behind him to kill the bridge and throw him in the lava, or whatever minion is pretending to be Bowser in the lava. Later on, Bowser will begin throwing hammers and have more traps in his room, but it doesn't change much, and even the real Bowser's not that much of a threat once you kind of just get used to him. Taking him on isn't too bad, it seems. You can fight him if you have a fire flower and toast him. Despite him breathing fire, somehow he's not immune to it, but it's just better to dash underneath him while he jumps. Grab the axe, and you save the princess. Well, her or one of her toads. She either revives all the dead toads that you broke, or the levels work incredibly well with the gameplay and challenges you face in the game. Overall, it works considerably well. Once you've beaten the game once, you basically gain a hard mode of the game to run through. It isn't all that much harder, enemies are slightly faster, and due to your genocide of the Goomba kind, they've all been replaced with buzzy beetles. It is harder, but not hard enough. Once I played through this mode, not even realizing the hard mode was on, so whoops. There isn't much else. There's this YouTuber here who you should totally subscribe to. I mean, he's so freaking cool. I am really a huge fan of this guy. Oh shit. Well, you guys saw it. He attacked me, his loyal fan. I wasn't stalking him. He attacked me just right outside his yard. I only wanted to be his friend. He stole my Game Boy. Seriously, though, the only thing to find through any type of exploration are treasure rooms full of coins, as well as blocks with coins. You can also find green mushrooms that give you extra lives in case you die a lot, and warp pipes that allow you to skip levels in case you're looking to speedrun the game. Coins eventually give you extra lives with 100 of them, and green mushrooms are an instant live, but, you know, you also have to know a cheat code to continue. Yeah. Basically, there's a cheat code in the original NES version of the game where if you die with all your lives gone, you can just in-type this cheat code and start on level 1 of whatever world you were on. There you go. Once you beat the game, however, you gain a level select, making things way more easier and lives semi-pointless. If I'm to be honest, the, slight cool treasure rooms are neat. The harder mode is nice, but overall, these don't hold up very well. First of their kind, for sure. I mean, unlocking a harder mode pretty much starts here. I don't know of any game that had this beforehand. But, yeah, it just doesn't hold up overall. However, oh boy. Let's talk about Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for a second. There is a ton, and I mean a ton, of side content in Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. Plus, they give you a cute little map screen. Super Mario Bros. Deluxe is a port of the NES Classic that was ported to the Game Boy Color. While very impressive for the time, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this port, unfortunately. And I know. Look, you either get criticism for absolutely loving it, or you get criticism for absolutely despising it. And there's one reason that you'd hate this port, and it's the screen crunch. Yeah, because I hope you memorize the levels. There is no way in hell that you have enough time to stop when an obstacle just kind of pops into existence on the side of the screen. Because the side of the screen is way closer than it really should be. However, when it comes to the side content, Deluxe is absolutely an improvement. You can race boos, which I couldn't figure out how to do. You can find red coins throughout levels, which is kind of nice. And if you really do enough points in the game itself, you can actually unlock a playable version of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. It's basically 2 games in 1. So, I mean, it's better to just, buy Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels on your DS. But if you only have a Game Boy Color, this works fairly well. So there you go. But overall, I'm not a big fan of the Deluxe version. If I had to say it, I would still say that the best version of the game is easily the All-Stars port. The All-Stars port is a remake that, boosts everything's color and makes some of the gameplay less conspicuous, although it's still there from time to time, just saying. Yep, this is the best version, but if you don't mind screen crunch, Deluxe is probably the best version. Savvy? Savvy. Let's wrap this up, shall we? Overall, Super Mario Bros. Is a fun time. It, lacks writing, of course it does. Not only is it Mario, but it's early Mario, which is vague as all hell. And, it doesn't have the greatest unlockables or sense of exploration when you find something kind of cool. But there are things here and there, and there's reasons to explore for sure. But, overall, I'm just kidding. It's pretty good. 7 out of 10. Yep, good. Now, again, I stress that the main version that I normally go through is the All-Stars version. Don't get me wrong, the NES version has its nostalgia and how cool it looks and everything like that. But the All-Stars version is just kind of better. The nice parallax scrolling backdrops look really nice. The music is kind of updated. It's all pretty nice. Now, for the Deluxe version, I don't like this version at all. The screen crunch makes level designs seem way worse. I should say seem. Overall, there's more to do, for sure. But it takes a bit of a hammering to the level design. Still playable, but the screen crunch does make things a bit more tricky to maneuver and, recommend the game to. But I would still say that if that's the only version you have to, acquire, then by all means. Even the Deluxe port, while I don't like it as much as the original or the All-Stars version, is still a pretty decent and competent port. It's not the worst thing ever by any means. So, while I don't like it as much, and I just don't like playing it at all, it's not the worst thing in the world. So, overall, if you have a Nintendo Switch, by all means, you can play the original or the All-Stars version right there and then. Although, the only reason to go back to the original is nostalgia, I'm not going to lie. But, you have both ports. And if you only have like a 3DS or a Game Boy Color, you have Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, which isn't bad either. And then, of course, you got the full-on port of the Game Boy Advance. The Wii U has access to Super Mario Brothers, the original NES version. 3DS has access to both the original version and the deluxe port. Yeah, you'd be hard-pressed to not get this game. In fact, more than likely you have played this game in some capacity or another, but I digress. As for the original Mario Brothers, it's a fun little arcade beat-em-up. It's not a beat-em-up. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I wrote that in my script. But, yeah, it's a fun little platformer. Yeah, it's a platformer. Competitive platforming. There you go. It's fun. Again, it's ported to everything, much like Super Mario Brothers. That would come later. So, it's kind of hard to believe you haven't played it to some capacity if you're a gamer. But I know some people haven't. And if you have any type of Nintendo console, by all means, look for it. Pick it up. See what you can do. But that's all the time I have for today, guys. As always, I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. And all that. Happy holidays!